The sun cast long shadows across the pristine floors of Bellamy's, the most exclusive boutique in the heart of the city. It was that magical hour when the light streamed through the tall windows, making the crystal chandeliers scatter rainbow patterns on the walls. For most shoppers, this was just another Tuesday afternoon. But for Amelia Reed, it was a rare chance to browse the store's annual sale. Amelia adjusted her simple beige cardigan and tucked a strand of her chestnut hair behind her ear as she carefully made her way between the elegant displays. Her eyes widened slightly at each price tag she turned over, even with the discount. As a kindergarten teacher at the local public school, these prices represented days of work. But her sister's birthday was coming up, and Lisa had always dreamed of owning something, anything from Bellamy's. Just one small thing, Amelia whispered to herself, her fingers trailing gently over a display of colorful scarves. She picked up a delicate silk one with hand-painted flowers, admiring how the soft fabric caught the light. The price was still steep, but perhaps manageable if she cut back on coffee for a month. A shop assistant smiled at her from a distance, not quite approaching but keeping an eye out. Amelia had noticed this careful attention since she'd walked in wearing her sensible flats and off-the-rack dress. Unlike the other customers with their designer handbags and perfect blowouts, she clearly didn't fit the usual Bellamy's clientele profile. The gentle hum of the store was suddenly interrupted by the distinctive click of expensive heels on marble. The sound grew louder, accompanied by a woman's confident voice discussing summer homes in the Hamptons. Amelia didn't need to turn around to feel the atmosphere in the store shift, as if the air itself was making way for someone important. And then I told the contractor that if he couldn't source Italian marble, he simply wasn't trying hard enough, the voice announced, followed by a laugh that sounded practiced to Amelia's ears. Curiosity got the better of her, and Amelia glanced over her shoulder. A tall woman with platinum blonde hair styled in an elaborate updo was making her entrance. Her cream-colored suit probably cost more than Amelia's monthly rent, and diamonds sparkled from her ears, neck, and wrists. This was Vivian Thornton, whose face Amelia recognized from society pages and charity gala photos. Vivian was speaking to the store manager, Penelope, who nodded eagerly at everything the wealthy woman said. Two assistants trailed behind them, arms already laden with shopping bags from other exclusive stores down the street. Amelia turned back to the scarves, trying to become invisible. She'd heard stories about Vivian Thornton, none of them kind. The woman was known for her extravagant spending, her cutting remarks, and her belief that her money entitled her to special treatment everywhere she went. "I need something special for the governor's dinner next week," Vivian was saying, her voice carrying throughout the store. "Something that makes a statement." "Of course, Mrs. Thornton," Penelope replied. "We've just received a new collection that I'm sure you'll adore. And may I say that suit is absolutely stunning on you." Amelia continued to browse, moving slowly toward a less central display. She had finally narrowed her choice down to two scarves, the flower-painted one and another with a subtle geometric pattern, when she felt, rather than saw, someone approach the display beside her. "Oh, these are actually quite lovely," Vivian said, suddenly right next to Amelia. She wasn't speaking to Amelia, of course, but to Penelope, who hovered nearby. "I could use a few new scarves for casual outings." Amelia took a small step back, giving the woman space. But as she did, Vivian reached for the very floral scarf Amelia had been holding moments before. "This one has potential," Vivian said, holding it up to the light. Amelia felt a pang of disappointment but quickly reminded herself there were other options. She focused her attention on the geometric patterned scarf, trying to imagine if her sister would prefer it. Vivian draped the floral scarf around her neck, studying her reflection in a nearby mirror. After a moment she frowned. "No, I don't think so. The pattern is a bit common." She handed it back to Penelope, who quickly returned it to the display. Hope fluttered in Amelia's chest. She waited until Vivian moved on to another section before reaching for the floral scarf again. As she held it up, imagining her sister's delight, she heard Vivian's voice sharpen from across the room. "Penelope, darling, when did Bellamy's start its discount program?" The question hung in the air, dripping with disdain. Amelia felt her cheeks warm as she realized the comment was directed at her presence. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Thornton?" Penelope asked, though her uncomfortable expression suggested she understood perfectly. Vivian raised a perfectly shaped eyebrow and tilted her head slightly toward Amelia. I'm simply wondering about your new clientele. This isn't a department store after all. Several other shoppers glanced up, then quickly looked away, unwilling to get involved. The two young sales associates behind the counter exchanged nervous looks. Amelia clutched the scarf tighter, her knuckles whitening. She'd saved for months to afford something from this sale, and she had as much right to be here as anyone else. Yet shame crept up her spine, making her wish she could disappear. Penelope cleared her throat. We're having our annual sale, Mrs. Thornton. It brings in some new customers. Clearly, Vivian replied, her gaze now directly on Amelia. Though I wonder if they realize not everything is on sale. That scarf, for instance. She nodded toward the one in Amelia's hands. Is from the new collection. Full price only. Amelia glanced down at the small red tag attached to the scarf. It was indeed marked as sale merchandise. She opened her mouth to point this out, then closed it again, knowing it would only make things worse, but Vivian wasn't finished. She approached Amelia with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. You know, there's a lovely little shop about 10 blocks east that might be more appropriate for your budget. They have some very nice synthetic scarves that look almost like real silk from a distance. The humiliation burned through Amelia like wildfire. She'd faced difficult parents at school. Unruly children, even the occasional rude stranger, but never such deliberate cruelty masked as helpful advice. The scarf is on sale, she said quietly, finding her voice at last. And I can afford it. Vivian's eyes widened slightly, not expecting resistance. Well, aren't you brave, she said with a cold laugh. She turned to Penelope. I do hope Bellamy's isn't compromising its standards. Half the reason I shop here is for the exclusive atmosphere. Penelope looked trapped between her loyalty to a top customer and basic human decency. Mrs. Thornton, I assure you, because if I wanted to shop alongside everyone and anyone, I'd go to the mall, Vivian continued, raising her voice slightly to ensure everyone heard. There's a certain standard one expects at establishments like this. A certain caliber of customer. An uncomfortable silence fell over the store. One of Vivian's assistants stared at her shoes, clearly mortified. The other pretended to be fascinated by a display of leather gloves. Amelia stood frozen, the beautiful scarf still in her hands. She could simply put it down and walk out, saving herself from further embarrassment. But something in her refused to be bullied. I'll take this one. Please, she said to the nearest sales associate, a young woman with kind eyes who had been watching the scene with visible discomfort. Of course, the associate said softly, reaching for the scarf, but before she could take it, Vivian stepped between them. Penelope, surely you can see this is becoming awkward for everyone. Perhaps you could suggest to this person that Bellamy's might not be the right fit for her shopping needs today? Penelope's face flushed. She looked from Vivian's stern expression to Amelia's dignified but hurt one. The store manager had worked at Bellamy's for 15 years and had never faced quite this situation. Penelope began, then straightened her shoulders. Mrs. Thornton, all paying customers are welcome at Bellamy's. For a moment, it seemed Penelope had found her courage. But then Vivian's expression darkened. Is that so? Because I was just discussing with my husband how we should update our home decor before hosting the charity gala next month. I was thinking Bellamy's might be the perfect place to start. But if the atmosphere has changed, perhaps I should look elsewhere. The implication was clear. Vivian and her husband spent more at Bellamy's in a month than most customers did in a year. The charity gala she mentioned was the social event of the season, with coverage in all the major magazines. Free publicity that Bellamy's couldn't buy. Penelope's momentary resolve crumbled. She turned to Amelia with regret in her eyes. Perhaps, miss, you might be more comfortable shopping at another time. The sale continues through the weekend and it's usually quieter in the mornings. The suggestion was delivered gently, but its meaning was unmistakable. Please leave now. Amelia felt as if the floor had dropped away beneath her feet. She looked around at the averted gazes of the other shoppers, the uncomfortable staff, and Vivian's triumphant smile. With as much dignity as she could muster, Amelia placed the scarf back on the display. I understand, she said, her voice steady despite the lump in her throat. Thank you for your time. She turned toward the exit, holding her head high as she walked across the gleaming floor. Behind her, she could hear Vivian already resuming her conversation with Penelope, as if nothing had happened. Discussing an upcoming dinner party as if she hadn't just humiliated another human being for sport. Amelia reached for the door handle, fighting back tears that threatened to spill. This wasn't worth crying over, she told herself. It was just a scarf, just a store, just one unpleasant woman with too much money and not enough kindness. As she pushed open the heavy glass door, the sound of a car pulling up to the curb caught her attention. A sleek black vehicle with tinted windows stopped directly in front of the store. The driver, a professional-looking man in a dark suit, quickly stepped out to open the rear passenger door. Amelia paused despite herself, curious who might be arriving in such style. Perhaps another friend of Vivian's, coming to join the exclusive shopping party from which she'd just been ejected. The man who stepped out of the car made Amelia freeze in place, her hand still on the door handle. Tall and distinguished, with dark hair touched by silver at the temples, he wore a perfectly tailored suit that spoke of wealth without shouting it. His presence commanded attention without demanding it. As he looked up at the storefront, his eyes met Amelia's and the unexpected happened. His serious expression transformed into a warm, genuine smile. Amelia stood frozen at the threshold of the boutique, her hand still gripping the door handle. The distinguished man who had just stepped out of the sleek black car was looking directly at her, his warm smile creating small crinkles at the corners of his eyes. For a moment, she thought he must be smiling at someone behind her. She even glanced over her shoulder, but there was no one else near the entrance. When she turned back, the man was already walking toward her with purposeful steps. "Amelia?" he called, his voice carrying easily across the short distance. Her mind raced. Did she know him? He seemed vaguely familiar, like someone she might have seen in a magazine or on television, but she couldn't place him. Yet he had just said her name with such certainty. "Amelia Reed, isn't it?" he asked again as he reached the entrance. "Yes," she replied hesitantly, still holding the door half open. "I'm sorry, have we met?" He smiled again, revealing perfect teeth. "Gabriel Chen. We met at the Children's Hospital fundraiser last spring. You were there with your class of kindergartners. They performed that wonderful song about friendship." Recognition dawned on Amelia's face. "Oh, yes, of course. You donated the new wing." She remembered now. This was Gabriel Chen, the tech billionaire whose software company had revolutionized cloud computing. He had been surprisingly down to earth at the event, sitting cross-legged on the floor with her students while they showed him their artwork. "That's right," he nodded, looking pleased that she remembered. "Are you just leaving? I was hoping to catch you." Behind them, the boutique had fallen silent. Amelia was acutely aware that every eye in the store was now fixed on them, including Vivian Thornton's. Amelia hesitated, unsure how to explain her hasty exit without sounding pitiful. "Yes, I was just heading out." Gabriel's eyes, dark and perceptive, studied her face. "Is everything all right? You seem upset." There was genuine concern in his voice, which only made the knot in Amelia's throat tighten. She swallowed hard, determined not to cry in front of the entire store. "It's nothing, really," she said, attempting a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Just a small misunderstanding." Gabriel glanced past her into the shop, taking in the scene. Vivian standing imperiously near the center of the store, the uncomfortable staff, the watching customers. His expression shifted almost imperceptibly, a slight hardening around the eyes, though his voice remained gentle when he spoke to Amelia. "Would you mind if I joined you? I've been meaning to check out this boutique myself." Before Amelia could respond, Penelope, the store manager, rushed forward. Her entire demeanor had transformed at the sight of Gabriel Chen. If Vivian Thornton was an important customer, Gabriel Chen was on another level entirely. "Mr. Chen, what an unexpected honor," Penelope gushed, her hands clasped together in delight. "Welcome to Bellamy's. How may we assist you today?" Gabriel smiled politely but kept his attention on Amelia. "I was just asking Ms. Reed if she'd mind my company while she shops." "I understand you're having a sale?" Penelope's face flushed as she registered his words. She looked from Gabriel to Amelia and back again, clearly recalibrating her understanding of the situation. "Yes, our annual summer sale," she confirmed, her voice slightly higher than normal. "And of course, Ms. Reed is more than welcome to continue her shopping. In fact, we were just helping her with some scarf options." The blatant reversal made Amelia feel both vindicated and deeply uncomfortable. She had no desire to stay in the store after being so thoroughly humiliated. Yet Gabriel's unexpected appearance had changed the dynamic entirely. Gabriel offered his arm to Amelia. "Shall we?" She hesitated only briefly before placing her hand lightly on his sleeve. Together, they walked back into the heart of the boutique. Amelia could feel Vivian Thornton's eyes boring into her back, but she refused to look in that direction. "I believe Ms. Reed was interested in this display," Penelope said, leading them to the scarves with a flourish that seemed to suggest they were the most exquisite items in the store. Gabriel looked down at Amelia. "Were you looking for something in particular?" "A birthday gift for my sister," Amelia explained quietly. "She's always wanted something from Bellamy's." "How thoughtful," Gabriel commented. "Which one caught your eye?" Amelia gently touched the floral silk scarf she'd been admiring earlier, the same one Vivian had dismissed as common. "This one is lovely," she said. "The hand-painted flowers remind me of the garden our grandmother kept when we were children." Gabriel took the scarf and held it up to the light, examining the delicate brushwork. "It's beautiful craftsmanship," he agreed. "Your sister has excellent taste by proxy." Behind them, a throat cleared pointedly. Amelia didn't need to turn to know it was Vivian, making her presence known. She kept her eyes fixed on the scarf, unwilling to acknowledge the woman who had tried to have her removed from the store. But Gabriel had no such compunction.
He turned smoothly, still holding the scarf,
and faced Vivian with a pleasant expression. "Hello," he said simply, his tone polite but not particularly warm. Vivian stepped forward, her diamond bracelet catching the light as she extended her hand. "Vivian Thornton," she introduced herself, her voice honey-sweet. "My husband and I are great admirers of your work, Mr. Chen. Your keynote speech at last year's Tech Summit was truly inspirational." Gabriel shook her hand briefly. "Thank you." "That's kind of you to say." "I had no idea you were a Bellamy's patron," Vivian continued, clearly fishing for information about his presence. Her eyes flickered to Amelia with barely concealed curiosity. "I'm not, actually," Gabriel replied. "This is my first visit. I'm here with Ms. Reed." The simple statement hung in the air, laden with implications. Vivian's perfect smile faltered slightly. "How nice," she managed, her gaze now darting between Gabriel and Amelia with increasing confusion. "You two are—" Before either could respond, one of Vivian's assistants approached timidly. "Mrs. Thornton, your husband is on the phone. He says it's urgent." Vivian looked annoyed at the interruption but nodded sharply. "Excuse me," she said to Gabriel, completely ignoring Amelia. "Business matters. You understand, I'm sure." As Vivian stepped away to take the call, Gabriel turned back to Amelia. "So the floral scarf for your sister. Is there anything else that caught your eye?" Amelia shook her head, still processing the bizarre turn of events. "No, the scarf is perfect, though I should probably wrap this up and let you get on with your day. I'm sure you didn't plan on spending your afternoon in a boutique." "Actually," Gabriel replied with a small smile, "I don't mind at all. In fact, I've been meaning to pick up a few things myself. Perhaps you could help me." Before Amelia could question this unexpected request, Penelope reappeared, practically hovering with anticipation. "Mr. Chen, would you and Ms. Reed care for some refreshments while you browse? We have champagne, sparkling water, or perhaps some tea." "Water would be lovely, thank you," Gabriel answered for both of them. As Penelope hurried off, Amelia lowered her voice. "You don't actually need to buy anything. I appreciate the rescue, but who says I'm rescuing you?" Gabriel interrupted, his eyes twinkling with amusement. "Maybe I genuinely need shopping advice from a kindergarten teacher with excellent taste in scarves." Despite herself, Amelia laughed. The sound was like a release valve for the tension that had been building inside her since Vivian's attack. "Fine, what are you supposedly shopping for?" "A gift," Gabriel replied promptly. "For my mother's birthday next month." "And what does your mother like?" Amelia asked, falling into the role he had created for her. "Classic styles, nothing too flashy. She prefers quality over trends." Amelia nodded thoughtfully, then led him to a display of elegant cashmere shawls. "These are timeless," she suggested. "And practical too, they can be dressed up or down." Gabriel examined the shawls with what appeared to be genuine interest. "You have a good eye. Which color would you recommend?" They spent the next 20 minutes browsing different sections of the store. To Amelia's surprise, Gabriel seemed to value her opinion, asking questions about various items and listening attentively to her responses. They settled on a deep burgundy shawl for his mother and a pair of leather gloves that he claimed were for himself. Throughout their shopping expedition, Amelia was acutely aware of the changed atmosphere in the store. The sales associates who had previously kept their distance now materialized at every turn, eager to assist. Other customers stole glances, clearly wondering about the connection between the plainly dressed teacher and the billionaire tech mogul. Vivian Thornton had completed her phone call and resumed her shopping. But her earlier confidence had deflated considerably. She kept a careful distance from Amelia and Gabriel, though her eyes followed them constantly. Finally, they approached the counter to pay for their purchases, the floral scarf for Amelia's sister, the burgundy shawl and gloves for Gabriel. As the sales associate wrapped their items with elaborate care, Gabriel turned to Amelia. "Would you join me for coffee? There's a nice little place around the corner." The invitation was casual, but Amelia sensed there was more to it than a simple coffee. Gabriel Chen had appeared out of nowhere and changed the entire dynamic of her day. She was curious to understand why. "I'd like that," she said honestly. Gabriel smiled, clearly pleased. "Excellent." Their items packaged in the signature Bellamy's blue bags with gold ribbon handles, they prepared to leave. Penelope personally escorted them to the door, thanking them profusely for their visit and inviting them to return soon. As they stepped out onto the sidewalk, Amelia felt a strange mixture of emotions: lingering embarrassment from the earlier confrontation, gratitude for Gabriel's unexpected intervention, and curiosity about what would happen next. The sleek black car was still waiting at the curb. The driver stepped forward to open the door, but Gabriel shook his head slightly. "We'll walk, Thomas. It's just around the corner." "Very good, sir," the driver replied. "I'll follow with the packages." As they began to stroll down the tree-lined street, Amelia finally asked the question that had been on her mind since Gabriel first called her name. "Why did you do that?" "Step in like that?" Gabriel was quiet for a moment, his hands in his pockets as they walked. When he finally spoke, his voice was thoughtful. "I saw your face as you were leaving. You looked hurt, but also dignified. It reminded me of something my father used to say, that you can tell a person's character not by how they treat those above them, but by how they handle those who believe themselves to be above them." He glanced at her, his expression serious now. "I don't know exactly what happened in there, but I have a pretty good guess. And I don't like bullies, Amelia. Never have." "Well, thank you," she said simply. It meant a lot. They reached the corner where a small cafe with outdoor seating beckoned invitingly. Gabriel held the gate open for her. "Besides," he added with a slight smile, "I really did need a gift for my mother." The cafe was a charming little place with mismatched vintage chairs and small round tables. Potted plants hung from the ceiling, creating an atmosphere that felt worlds away from the sterile elegance of Bellamy's. A bell tinkled softly as Gabriel held the door open for Amelia. Inside, the rich aroma of freshly ground coffee beans enveloped them. Unlike the boutique, no one here seemed to recognize Gabriel Chen. The barista, a young man with colorful tattoos peeking out from under his rolled-up sleeves, greeted them with the same casual friendliness he showed to all customers. "What can I get you?" Gabriel asked as they approached the counter. "Just a regular coffee, please. With a splash of milk," Amelia replied, reaching for her wallet. Gabriel gently waved away her attempt to pay. "My invitation, my treat," he insisted. He turned to the barista. "One coffee with a splash of milk, and I'll have a black coffee, please." They found a quiet table by the window, away from other patrons. Thomas, Gabriel's driver, appeared briefly at the door, holding their Bellamy's shopping bags. Gabriel signaled for him to leave the packages with them and wait outside. Once they were settled with their coffees, an awkward silence fell between them. Amelia wrapped her hands around the warm mug, unsure where to begin. The events at the boutique felt surreal now, sitting here with one of the wealthiest men in the country as if they were old friends. "So," Gabriel finally broke the silence. "Kindergarten teaching. That must be rewarding." Amelia smiled, grateful for the easy topic. "It is. Exhausting some days, but always worthwhile. 5-year-olds see the world in such a unique way. They notice things adults miss, like what?" Gabriel seemed genuinely curious. "Well, last week we were reading a story about the moon, and one of my students, Joey, asked why the moon follows him everywhere he goes. Another child suggested that maybe the moon gets lonely and likes to have friends." She laughed at the memory. Their minds make connections we'd never think of. Gabriel's expression softened. "That's wonderful. My company employs thousands of brilliant engineers, but I suspect they don't approach problems with quite that level of creativity." "What exactly does your company do?" Amelia asked, realizing she only had a vague understanding of Gabriel's work. I know it's something with software, but we developed a cloud computing system that helps businesses manage their data more efficiently, Gabriel explained, keeping it simple. Basically, we help companies store information in a way that makes it easy to find and use when they need it. Amelia nodded. And that made you a billionaire? As soon as the words left her mouth, she regretted them. I'm sorry, that was rude, but Gabriel just laughed. No, it's a fair question. And yes, essentially it did. The right idea at the right time, plus a lot of hard work and some good luck. He took a sip of his coffee. But enough about me. Tell me more about you. Have you always wanted to be a teacher? As they talked, Amelia found herself relaxing. Gabriel was an attentive listener, asking thoughtful questions and sharing his own stories without dominating the conversation. She told him about growing up with her sister in a small town, their parents who had worked multiple jobs to send them to college, and her passion for early childhood education. My sister Lisa, the one whose birthday is coming up, she's the real achiever in our family, Amelia said with evident pride. She just finished medical school. The scarf is to celebrate her becoming Dr. Reed. That's impressive, Gabriel acknowledged. Your parents must be very proud of both of you. They would have been, Amelia said softly. They passed away 3 years ago. Car accident. Gabriel's face fell. I'm so sorry, Amelia. I didn't know. She shook her head. How could you? It's okay. We still miss them every day, but we're doing all right. She smiled sadly. That's actually why the scarf is so important. Our mom always dreamed of shopping at Bellamy's someday. She'd save magazine clippings of their window displays. So giving Lisa something from there, it's like a piece of mom as part of her celebration too. Gabriel was quiet for a moment, absorbing her words. Then he reached across the table and briefly touched her hand. Thank you for sharing that with me. It makes what happened at the store even more infuriating. The mention of the boutique incident brought Amelia back to her original question. You never really explained how you knew my name. We met at the fundraiser, yes, but that was months ago and we barely spoke. A slightly embarrassed look crossed Gabriel's face. Well, that's a bit of a longer story. He hesitated, then continued. After the fundraiser, I asked about your school's program. The hospital director mentioned your name specifically, said you were doing remarkable work with limited resources. Really? Amelia was surprised. Yes. Actually, I've been following your school's progress for a while now. My foundation has been looking into supporting innovative early education programs, and yours caught our attention. Amelia set her coffee down slowly. My program? But we're just a small public school. That's exactly what makes it interesting, Gabriel explained. You've achieved impressive results without the resources private schools have. Your literacy rates are well above average, and your approach to emotional learning is exactly what we're trying to promote. I had no idea anyone was paying attention, Amelia said, genuinely stunned. A lot of people are paying attention, Amelia, including me. Gabriel smiled. I was planning to reach out through official channels next month, but then I saw you today and... He shrugged. Sometimes coincidence does the work for us. As they continued talking, the afternoon light began to fade outside the cafe window. Amelia was surprised to check her watch and discover they'd been talking for nearly 2 hours. I should probably get going, she said reluctantly. I have lesson plans to prepare for tomorrow. Gabriel nodded and signaled for the check. As they gathered their shopping bags and prepared to leave, the cafe door swung open. Amelia looked up and froze. Vivian Thornton stood in the doorway, her perfectly made-up face registering shock as she spotted them. Behind her was a tall, distinguished-looking man in an expensive suit, presumably her husband. Gabriel, Vivian's voice carried across the cafe. What a delightful coincidence. Gabriel's expression remained polite, but noticeably cooler than before. Vivian twice in one day. Vivian approached their table, pulling her reluctant-looking husband along. This is my husband, Robert Thornton. Robert, this is Gabriel Chen. The two men shook hands. Robert Thornton seemed genuinely pleased to meet Gabriel. Unaware of the earlier confrontation at Bellamy's, and this is... Vivian trailed off, finally forced to acknowledge Amelia. Amelia Reed, Gabriel supplied firmly, a kindergarten teacher at Oakwood Elementary, and the director of their early literacy program. Charmed, Vivian said tightly. barely glancing at Amelia before turning her attention back to Gabriel. "We just adore this little cafe. It's our secret spot away from all the usual society hangouts. So authentic, don't you think?" Gabriel's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Yes, very authentic." An awkward silence fell over the group. Robert Thornton, sensing tension but not understanding its source, attempted to fill the gap. "Your company's recent expansion into Asia was brilliantly executed, Mr. Chen. Our investment firm has been following your progress with great interest." "Thank you," Gabriel replied. "We're pleased with the results so far." Vivian leaned in conspiratorially. "We're hosting a small dinner party next weekend, just 20 or so close friends. We'd be absolutely thrilled if you could join us." Gabriel glanced at Amelia, then back to Vivian. "That's very kind, but I'm afraid I have prior commitments. Perhaps another time." Vivian's smile faltered slightly. "Of course, we understand how busy you must be. The invitation stands whenever you're available." She turned to her husband. "Darling, why don't you get us a table while I freshen up?" As Robert moved toward the counter, Vivian's demeanor changed subtly. She looked directly at Amelia for the first time. "I must say, Ms. Reed, you move in surprising circles for a teacher." The pause before teacher made the word sound like an insult. Amelia felt her cheeks warm, but Gabriel spoke before she could respond. "Actually, Vivian, Amelia and I were just discussing her school's innovative educational approach. Her program is revolutionizing early childhood education. We at the Chen Foundation are very interested in supporting her work." Vivian's eyes widened slightly. "Is that so? How philanthropic of you." "It's not philanthropy, it's investment in the future," Gabriel corrected her gently but firmly. "But we should be going. Amelia has an important day of teaching tomorrow, and I have some foundation paperwork to review regarding her program." He picked up their shopping bags and offered his arm to Amelia. "Shall we?" Amelia took his arm, feeling a surge of gratitude for his support. "It was nice meeting you, Mr. Thornton," she called to Robert, who waved from across the room. She deliberately didn't acknowledge Vivian. Outside, Thomas was waiting with the car. Gabriel helped Amelia inside, then joined her in the back seat. "Where can we drop you?" he asked. Amelia gave her address to Thomas, then turned to Gabriel. "Thank you for that again." "No need to thank me," he replied. "Everything I said was true. Your program is impressive and the foundation is genuinely interested." As the car pulled away from the curb, Amelia caught a glimpse of Vivian watching them through the cafe window, her expression a mixture of confusion and annoyance. "You know she's going to be digging for information about us now," Amelia commented. Gabriel shrugged. "Let her. There's nothing to find that would interest her." Two professionals discussing a potential educational partnership, hardly scandalous. Amelia laughed. "Is that what we were doing?" "Among other things," Gabriel replied with a smile. "But yes, I meant what I said about the foundation. We'd like to offer your school a grant to expand your literacy program. No strings attached." Amelia stared at him. "Are you serious?" "Completely serious. The paperwork was already being prepared. Today's meeting just speeds up the timeline a bit." The car turned onto Amelia's street, a modest neighborhood of small apartments and family homes. As they pulled up to her building, Amelia turned to Gabriel. "I don't know what to say. This morning I was just a teacher trying to buy a birthday gift. And now you're still a teacher trying to buy a birthday gift," Gabriel finished for her. "But one who might have a bit more funding for her classroom soon." Thomas opened the door for Amelia. Gabriel handed her the Bellamy's bag containing the scarf for her sister. "I'd like to continue our conversation about the grant," Gabriel said. "Perhaps dinner tomorrow?" "I promise it's strictly professional." Amelia hesitated. Despite his assurances, there was something in Gabriel's expression that suggested this might be more than a business meeting. And strangely, she found she didn't mind that possibility. "Dinner would be nice," she agreed. "Strictly professional, of course." Gabriel smiled. "Of course. I'll pick you up at 7. As the car drove away, Amelia stood on the sidewalk clutching her shopping bag, trying to process everything that had happened. What had started as one of the most humiliating days of her life had somehow transformed into something entirely unexpected, and tomorrow promised to be even more interesting. The next morning, Amelia arrived at her classroom earlier than usual. She needed the quiet time to center herself after yesterday's whirlwind of events. The familiar smell of crayons and construction paper helped ground her as she prepared materials for the day's lessons. As she arranged colorful alphabet cards on the reading table, her phone buzzed with a text from her sister. "How's the birthday gift hunt going? Find anything good?" Lisa had asked. Amelia smiled, thinking of the beautiful silk scarf tucked safely in her apartment. "Found the perfect gift. Can't wait to give it to you. How's hospital life treating you, Dr. Reed?" The children began arriving at 8:30, filling the classroom with their boundless energy and cheerful voices. Joey, the boy who had wondered why the moon followed him everywhere, immediately tugged on Amelia's sleeve to show her a rock he'd found that looked exactly like a dinosaur egg, Ms. Reed, I swear. For the next several hours, Amelia was completely immersed in her teaching. They read stories, practiced writing letters, built towers with blocks, and painted pictures of their families. It was only during her lunch break that Amelia had a moment to think about her upcoming dinner with Gabriel Chen. Strictly professional, she reminded herself, though she couldn't help feeling a flutter of anticipation that had little to do with potential grant money. Her fellow teacher, Diane, noticed her distraction in the break room. "You seem a million miles away today. Everything okay?" Amelia hesitated, then decided to share at least part of the story. "I met someone who's interested in our literacy program. His foundation might offer us a grant." Diane's eyes widened. "That's fantastic. Who is it? One of the local businesses?" "Actually, it's the Chen Foundation." Diane nearly spilled her coffee. "Chen, as in Gabriel Chen? The tech billionaire?" Amelia nodded, trying to appear casual about it. "We're meeting for dinner tonight to discuss the details." "Dinner? With Gabriel Chen?" Diane looked both impressed and suspicious. "How did this happen?" "It's a long story," Amelia replied with a small smile. "I'll fill you in later." The afternoon passed in a blur of activity. When the final bell rang and the last child had been picked up, Amelia hurried home to prepare for the evening. She stood before her closet, suddenly aware of how limited her wardrobe was. Most of her clothes were practical outfits suitable for wrangling kindergartners, nothing appropriate for dinner with one of the country's wealthiest men. After trying on and discarding several options, she settled on a simple navy blue dress she'd worn to her college graduation. It was classic and modest, if a bit outdated. She paired it with her one good pair of heels and a silver necklace that had belonged to her mother. At precisely 7 o'clock, her doorbell rang. Amelia took a deep breath, checked her reflection one last time, and went to answer it. Gabriel stood on her doorstep, looking slightly less formal than the day before in dark trousers and a light gray sweater over a collared shirt. No tie, she noticed. His eyes warmed appreciatively as he took in her appearance. "You look lovely," he said simply. "Thank you," Amelia replied, suddenly feeling shy. "You look nice too, less billionaire-like." Gabriel laughed. "That was the goal. I thought we could go somewhere a bit more relaxed tonight. Is that okay?" "Definitely okay," Amelia agreed, relieved. She had been worried he might take her to some exclusive restaurant where she wouldn't know which fork to use. Thomas was waiting with the car, but to Amelia's surprise, Gabriel opened the driver's door instead of the rear passenger door. "I thought I'd drive tonight," he explained, seeing her confusion. "Thomas deserves an evening off occasionally." The thought of Gabriel Chen, tech mogul worth billions, driving his own car seemed oddly endearing to Amelia. It made him seem more human, less like the larger-than-life figure described in business magazines. "Where are we going?" she asked as they pulled away from her apartment building. "A little Italian place about 20 minutes from here," Gabriel replied. "Family-owned, incredible food, and best of all, no one will care who we are or take our picture for their social media." The restaurant, when they arrived, was exactly as Gabriel had described, a cozy, warm space with checkered tablecloths and soft lighting. The owner, an elderly Italian man with a magnificent white mustache, greeted Gabriel like an old friend. "Mr. Chen, so good to see you again. And you bring a beautiful lady this time." "Carlo, this is Amelia Reed. Amelia, this is Carlo Vecchio. He makes the best carbonara in the city." "In the country," Carlo corrected with a wink. "Perhaps the world. Come, I have your usual table." Their table was in a quiet corner by a window overlooking a small garden strung with fairy lights. Once they were seated with menus, Gabriel leaned forward slightly. "I come here whenever I need to escape the Gabriel Chen that everyone thinks they know," he confided. "Carlo treats me like a regular person, not a walking bank account." Amelia could understand the appeal. The restaurant had a genuine warmth that no amount of money could manufacture. So, Gabriel continued after they'd ordered, about your school's literacy program. I've had my foundation team put together some preliminary paperwork. He reached into a leather messenger bag Amelia hadn't noticed before and pulled out a slim folder. This outlines the grant we'd like to offer, $250,000 initially, with the possibility of renewal based on results. Amelia nearly choked on her water. $250,000? That's more than our entire school budget for the year. Gabriel nodded. We know. And from what we've seen, you could do amazing things with proper funding. The grant would cover additional teaching assistants, new materials, technology, and even allow you to expand the program to other schools in the district if you wanted. Amelia stared at the folder, almost afraid to touch it. This is incredibly generous, but why us? Why me? There must be hundreds of literacy programs across the country. Gabriel's expression grew thoughtful. There are, but few of them show the kind of results yours does with such limited resources. That tells us you've got something special, an approach, a methodology, or maybe just the right person leading it. He smiled. Sometimes the best investments aren't about finding the biggest program, but the one with the most potential. Their food arrived, momentarily pausing the conversation. Amelia used the interruption to gather her thoughts. The grant would be life-changing for her school, allowing her to implement ideas she'd only dreamed about. But something still nagged at her. Can I ask you something personal? She said after Carlo had left them to enjoy their meal. Of course, Gabriel replied, twirling pasta onto his fork. Why were you really at Bellamy's yesterday? You said you'd never been there before, but it seems like an odd coincidence that you showed up at exactly the right moment. Gabriel set down his fork and met her gaze directly. The truth is, I was on my way to a meeting nearby. I saw you through the window and you looked upset. I recognized you from the hospital fundraiser and was going to say hello, but then I noticed what was happening inside. He shrugged slightly. The rest you know. So it really was just a coincidence? Amelia pressed, not entirely convinced. Sometimes life works that way, Gabriel said with a small smile. Though I'll admit, when I saw how that woman was treating you, I might have adjusted my entrance timing for maximum effect. Amelia laughed. Well, your timing was perfect. You should have seen Vivian's face when you knew my name. I can imagine. Gabriel's expression sobered. People like Vivian Thornton live in a bubble. They judge others based on clothes, connections, bank balances. They never bother to look deeper. And you don't? Amelia asked, genuinely curious. I try not to, he answered honestly. Growing up without money teaches you its true value and its limitations. Success hasn't made me forget that. You grew up poor? Amelia couldn't hide her surprise. Gabriel nodded. Single mom, 3 jobs, tiny apartment. We never went hungry, but it was close sometimes. I got lucky. Scholarships, mentors who believed in me, and eventually, the right idea at the right time. Amelia felt a new understanding bloom between them. His wealth hadn't fallen from the sky. He knew what it meant to struggle. Their conversation flowed easily through dinner and dessert. Gabriel told her stories about the early days of his company. Working out of a garage with just 2 other programmers, Amelia shared her vision for what education could be if resources weren't always the limiting factor. By the time Carlo brought them coffee, Amelia realized they'd barely discussed the specifics of the grant. The folder sat unopened on the table. We should probably talk about the actual terms, she said, gesturing to the folder. Gabriel shook his head. Not tonight. Take it home, read through it, discuss it with your principal. This isn't a one-night decision. But, Amelia, Gabriel interrupted gently. Tonight was never really about the grant. Not entirely, anyway. She met his gaze, feeling a flutter in her chest at what she saw there. Then what was it about? Getting to know you, he answered simply. Without the drama of Bellamy's or the awkwardness of a chance meeting. Just you and me. The honesty in his voice made her breath catch. I've enjoyed it, she admitted. Very much. So have I. Gabriel smiled. Enough that I'd like to do it again, and not strictly professionally next time. Before Amelia could respond, the door of the restaurant opened, and a sudden hush fell over the dining room. She turned to look and felt her stomach drop. Vivian and Robert Thornton had just walked in. "You've got to be kidding me," Amelia muttered under her breath. Gabriel followed her gaze and frowned slightly. "This is becoming ridiculous." "What are the chances?" "Do you think she followed us?" Amelia whispered. "I doubt it," Gabriel replied, though he looked uncertain. Even Vivian wouldn't be that bold. But as the maitre d' led the Thorntons to their table, directly across the restaurant from Gabriel and Amelia, Vivian's triumphant smile suggested otherwise. She waved at them as if they were old friends, then whispered something to her husband while looking pointedly in their direction. "She's going to come over here, isn't she?" Amelia sighed. "Probably," Gabriel agreed. "But we don't have to stay and wait for it. Are you ready to go?" Amelia nodded gratefully. Gabriel signaled for the check, which Carlo brought immediately. As Gabriel paid, Vivian rose from her table and began making her way toward them. "Time to make a strategic exit," Gabriel murmured, standing and offering Amelia his hand. They were almost to the door when Vivian intercepted them. "Gabriel! Amelia!" "What a delightful surprise," she exclaimed, her voice carrying throughout the restaurant. "Robert and I were just saying we hope to run into you again soon." "Vivian," Gabriel acknowledged, with a polite nod. "I'm afraid we were just leaving." "So soon?" Vivian pouted dramatically. "You must join us for a quick drink at least. I was hoping to hear more about this educational program." She glanced at Amelia with thinly veiled skepticism. Before either of them could respond, Carlo appeared at Gabriel's side. "Mr. Chen, your car is ready at the back entrance," he said with a meaningful look. "If you and the lady would follow me." Gabriel smiled gratefully at the restaurant owner. "Thank you, Carlo. Vivian, you'll have to excuse us. Perhaps another time." Carlo led them through the kitchen and out a back door to where Gabriel's car was indeed waiting, thanks to a quick-thinking valet. "She comes here sometimes," Carlo explained as they stepped outside. "Not a good tipper, that one. And she sends back perfectly good food." He shook his head disapprovingly. "You deserve a peaceful dinner, Mr. Chen." Gabriel thanked him warmly and pressed something into his hand that made the old man's eyes widen. As they drove away, Amelia burst into laughter. "I can't believe that just happened. Again, is she stalking you or something?" "If she is, she's not very good at it," Gabriel replied with a chuckle. "But I have to admit, I'm getting tired of having Vivian Thornton interrupt our time together." Amelia looked at him curiously. "Our time together? We've only known each other for a day." "True," Gabriel conceded. "But it's been quite a day, hasn't it?" As they pulled up to Amelia's apartment building, a comfortable silence fell between them. Gabriel came around to open her door, then walked her to the entrance. "Thank you for dinner," Amelia said, suddenly shy again, "and for the grant opportunity. I'll look over everything and talk to my principal tomorrow." "Take your time," Gabriel assured her. "The foundation isn't going anywhere." He hesitated, then added, "And neither am I. If you'd like to see me again, that is." Amelia smiled up at him. "I think I would. Like to see you again, I mean." Gabriel's face brightened. "Good. That's good." He leaned down slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted to, and placed a gentle kiss on her cheek. "Good night, Amelia." "Good night, Gabriel." As she watched him drive away, Amelia touched her cheek where his lips had been. Whatever was happening between them had moved far beyond a chance encounter at a boutique. And despite her practical nature, despite all the reasons it made no sense, she couldn't wait to see where it might lead. 2 weeks later, Amelia stood in her classroom surrounded by boxes. Each one contained brand new educational materials, books in multiple languages, interactive learning tablets, art supplies, and specialized teaching aids for children with different learning styles. The first installment of the Chen Foundation grant had arrived with almost magical speed after her principal enthusiastically approved the proposal. "I still can't believe this is happening," Diane said as she helped Amelia unpack a box of colorful reading mats. When you told me about meeting Gabriel Chen, I thought maybe he'd donate a few computers or something. Not all this. Amelia smiled as she arranged a set of handcrafted wooden puzzles on a new shelf. Trust me, I'm just as surprised. The foundation team has been incredible. They're not just throwing money at us, they're making sure we have exactly what we need. And how's it going with the man himself? Diane asked with a knowing smile. Still strictly professional? A warm blush crept up Amelia's cheeks. Since their dinner 2 weeks ago, she and Gabriel had seen each other almost every day. Sometimes just for coffee, sometimes for long walks in the park, once for an impromptu picnic when the weather was particularly beautiful. Each meeting had strengthened the connection between them, revealing new layers of compatibility that surprised them both. It's evolving, Amelia admitted. He's not at all what I expected. I should hope not, Diane laughed. If billionaires were exactly what we expected, life would be very boring. Amelia's phone buzzed with a text message. It was from Gabriel. All set for tonight. Picking you up at 6. Dress casual but nice. And don't forget your sister's present. Tonight was Lisa's birthday dinner. After much consideration, Amelia had invited Gabriel to join them. It was a significant step, introducing him to her only family, and she felt both excited and nervous about it. That's him? Diane guessed, seeing Amelia's expression. Yes. We're celebrating my sister's birthday tonight. Meeting the family already? This is serious, Diane teased. Amelia started to protest but stopped herself. The truth was, things with Gabriel did feel serious, despite the short time they'd known each other. There was an ease between them, a natural compatibility that made their vastly different backgrounds seem unimportant. The school day passed in a blur of excitement as the children explored their new learning materials. By the time the last student left, Amelia was exhausted but happy. She hurried home to prepare for the evening, taking extra care with her appearance. She chose a simple but elegant dress in a deep green color that Gabriel had once mentioned, brought out the gold flecks in her eyes. At precisely 6 o'clock, her doorbell rang. Gabriel stood there holding a bouquet of wildflowers. Not the formal roses or expensive arrangements that most would expect, but colorful, free-spirited blooms that reminded Amelia of the meadow behind her childhood home. These are perfect, she said, accepting them with a smile. How did you know? You mentioned once that your grandmother grew wildflowers, Gabriel replied. I thought you might like them better than something from a fancy florist. It was these small, thoughtful gestures that continually surprised Amelia. The way Gabriel truly listened and remembered the things that mattered to her. They drove to Lisa's apartment in comfortable conversation, discussing their days and the success of the new materials in Amelia's classroom. When they arrived, Amelia felt a flutter of nerves. Lisa was her only family and her opinion mattered deeply. She's going to love you, Gabriel assured her, sensing her anxiety. And if she doesn't, well, I'll just have to win her over with my charming personality. Amelia laughed, her tension easing. Your charming personality does seem to be effective. Lisa opened the door with a wide smile that faltered slightly when she saw Gabriel standing beside her sister. Though Amelia had mentioned she was bringing someone, she hadn't fully explained who. Happy birthday, Amelia exclaimed, hugging her sister tightly. Lisa, this is Gabriel. Gabriel, my sister Lisa. Recognition dawned in Lisa's eyes as she extended her hand. Gabriel Chen. Well, this is unexpected. All good things usually are, Gabriel replied with a warm smile, shaking her hand. It's a pleasure to meet you, Dr. Reed. Amelia speaks of you with such pride. Lisa raised an eyebrow at her sister but welcomed them inside. Her apartment was small but cozy, decorated with photos of their family and mementos from her medical school journey. Dinner was initially a bit awkward, with Lisa clearly trying to figure out how her kindergarten teacher sister had ended up dating one of the richest men in the country. But Gabriel's genuine interest in Lisa's medical work and his ability to talk about ordinary things without any pretension gradually won her over. By the time Amelia presented Lisa with the Bellamy's gift box containing the silk scarf, the atmosphere had warmed considerably. This is from both of us, Amelia said, though she and Gabriel had agreed beforehand that the gift was truly from her alone. Lisa unwrapped the package and gasped when she saw the Bellamy's logo. Amelia, you didn't. This must have cost a fortune. Open it. Amelia encouraged, excitement dancing in her eyes. Lisa carefully lifted the lid and unfolded the tissue paper to reveal the hand-painted floral silk scarf. "It's beautiful," she breathed, running her fingers over the delicate fabric. "This reminds me of Grandma's garden," Amelia finished for her. "That's exactly what I thought when I saw it." Lisa's eyes glistened with tears as she wrapped the scarf around her shoulders. "I love it. Thank you." She looked between Amelia and Gabriel. "Both of you." As Lisa went to the kitchen to fetch dessert, Gabriel squeezed Amelia's hand under the table. "She's wonderful," he whispered, "just like her sister." The rest of the evening passed pleasantly, with the three of them sharing stories and laughter. When it was time to leave, Lisa pulled Amelia aside while Gabriel waited by the door. "Okay, I get it now," Lisa said softly. "He's not what I expected." "I know, right?" Amelia agreed with a small smile. "Just be careful," Lisa cautioned, ever the protective older sister. "Your worlds are very different." "They are," Amelia acknowledged. "But somehow when we're together, that doesn't seem to matter." Lisa studied her sister's face for a moment, then nodded. "I can see that. He looks at you like you're the most fascinating person he's ever met." "Does he?" Amelia hadn't noticed, absolutely. "And more importantly, you look at him the same way." On the drive back to Amelia's apartment, Gabriel seemed thoughtful. "Your sister is impressive," he said finally. "I can see why you're so proud of her." "She liked you," Amelia told him. "Which is no small feat. Lisa's protective." "As she should be," Gabriel replied. "You're worth protecting." When they reached her building, Gabriel walked her to her door as usual. But tonight felt different somehow, more significant. "I have something for you," Gabriel said, reaching into his pocket. "It's not a gift exactly. More of a proposal." Amelia's heart skipped a beat at the word proposal, though she knew he didn't mean it that way. Gabriel handed her a small envelope. Inside was a key card with the Chen Foundation logo. "What's this?" she asked, confused. "We're opening a new educational center downtown," Gabriel explained. "A place where teachers from across the district can access resources, training, and support for innovative teaching methods. The board unanimously voted to name it after you, the Amelia Reed Center for Educational Excellence." Amelia stared at the key card in shock. "After me? But I haven't done anything to deserve that." "That's where you're wrong," Gabriel said gently. "What you've accomplished with so little support is remarkable. The center is meant to help other dedicated teachers do the same. And we'd like you to be its director if you're interested." "Director?" Amelia repeated, trying to process the offer. "But I'm just a kindergarten teacher." "You're never just anything, Amelia," Gabriel said, taking her hands in his. "You're extraordinary. And not because of anything I've done or any grant money. You were extraordinary the moment you stood your ground in that boutique, refusing to let someone like Vivian Thornton determine your worth." Tears welled in Amelia's eyes. "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to decide tonight," Gabriel assured her. "Take time to think about it. Talk to your sister. Visit the center, it's almost ready." Amelia nodded, overwhelmed by the opportunity being offered to her. "Thank you," she whispered. "For believing in me." "That's the easiest part," Gabriel replied softly. Then, with a slightly nervous smile, he added, "There's something else I wanted to ask you." "More surprises?" Amelia laughed, wiping away a tear. "Just one more." Gabriel took a deep breath. "My mother's birthday dinner is next weekend. I'd like you to come with me. To meet my family." The significance of the invitation wasn't lost on Amelia. This wasn't a casual request, it was Gabriel telling her he saw a future for them. "I'd love to," she said simply. Gabriel's face lit up with a smile that made Amelia's heart flutter. Slowly, he leaned down and kissed her. Not on the cheek this time, but a proper kiss that conveyed everything they hadn't yet put into words. When they finally parted, Gabriel rested his forehead against hers. "By the way," he murmured, "I heard an interesting piece of news today. Bellamy's is implementing a new customer service policy. Apparently, there was an incident with a certain Mrs. Thornton that led to a formal complaint being filed by several witnesses." Amelia pulled back to look at him. "What happened?" "It seems Vivian made a scene when she was denied entry to their exclusive preview event last night. The new store manager, Penelope, was mysteriously transferred, informed her that Bellamy's no longer welcomes customers who mistreat others." "You had something to do with this, didn't you?" Amelia asked, narrowing her eyes suspiciously. Gabriel adopted an innocent expression. Me? I'm just a customer who happened to write a letter expressing concern about their previous practices, and who might have mentioned that the Chen Foundation was considering a partnership for their children's charity gala. Amelia laughed and shook her head. Remind me never to get on your bad side. No chance of that, Gabriel assured her, pulling her close again. You're firmly on my best side. Have been since the moment I saw you. As they said goodnight, Amelia reflected on how completely her life had changed in just 2 weeks, all because of a chance encounter in an upscale boutique. She had gone from being humiliated and asked to leave a store to being offered the directorship of an educational center, named in her honor. But more than the material changes, more than the opportunities and the grant money, what mattered most was the man who had seen her worth from the beginning. Not because of her clothes or her bank account, but because of who she truly was, and that, Amelia thought as she watched Gabriel drive away, was worth more than all the silk scarves in Bellamy's.